So what needs to be done? What do you got to do to your cooling system to take care of it? Well, I'd suggest a flush and fill every 2 to 3 years. Just kind of flush out as much as you can, refill it. Uh, you're never going to get all of it out. There's always going to be some residual antifreeze in there, which does beg the question exactly how we do this. And I'll talk about that in a second. And replace the hoses. We have to inspect the hoses and have a look at them and realize they fail from the inside out, especially modern hoses. And do a thermostat and radiator check. Thermostat, radiator cap check. Those are pretty simple to do. I'll show you how to do those. And then verify the cooling fan operation, which I will show you how to verify the cooling fan operation on an electric and on a mechanical fan. Can I just look at the outside of the hoses? No. As a matter of fact, you can't. You got to look at them from the inside, which that's very difficult. But, I don't have X-ray vision. Well, really, honestly, it's actually pretty simple. You grab a hold of the hose and you give it a feel. If you squeeze the hose in it and you feel it cracking, on the inside, you squeeze it, you can feel it. That's a bad hose. It's failed from the inside. As a matter of fact, if you squeeze it and it cracks, stop doing that because you're releasing a bunch of little particles when you do that. It can clog up the heater core and the radiator and stuff. So, in one word, you just feel it and tell. And then the other thing, is you use your hands, and usually where they're going to fail, where hoses are going to be bad is at the ends and at the bends. We look at, the hose clamp area, because that is one place where they tend to fail. And I'm going to look at where the hose clamp is, and I'm going to check and see, if it's swollen right around the hose clamp. If it swells up or is really soft or it's really hard or it's chafed right at the hose clamp, usually that's an indication that hose needs to be replaced. If it's swelling up around the hose clamp, usually that means the fibers inside have failed. Most of these guys, I'll do this. Most of these guys have a braided mesh inside the hose. It's usually a Dacron or polyester, some type of fiber mesh that's inside. And honestly, what happens is that mesh should run all the way down the hose, but if it breaks, it's usually going to break right underneath the hose clamp, and you'll actually see these little fibers like starting to work their way out. If you pull them, give them a pull with your fingers or a pair of needles or something, and you're pulling them out, and they're just as long as the distance to the hose clamp, that means that fiber mesh has failed and it is time to be replaced. Some of the newer hoses don't look outwardly bad. You gotta kind of look at them real close and then err on the side of caution. They generally last, 10 years or so, but heat kills them. The hotter the place that they live in, the worse they're gonna wear. Now, checking the antifreeze, we can check it. There are pH test strips and there's a hydrometer, and I'm going to kind of show you that real fast, and a refractometer. Actually, that's the one I'm going to show you. I'm not going to show you the hydrometer. Nobody uses that anymore. I'm going to show you that when we get out into the lab. So why do we test the coolant? Well, if you look at the chart, a 50-50 mixture, 50-50, here's 50%, water and antifreeze, that should protect us down to about 35 below, which that's pretty good. That's fine for around here. We go to 60 and it 60% antifreeze and 40% water, and that'll protect us down to minus 60. Well, why don't we just use 100% antifreeze? Well, unfortunately, 100% antifreeze freezes at about 0 degrees, and it gets colder than that around here, and in most places, which is about the same as a 30-70 mix of antifreeze and water. You know, so if we get this mix off by a little bit, this can cause us issues. Uh, that's why we check the antifreeze and check its freeze protection. Now, one of the things that we do run into is we do a flush and fill. We dump as much antifreeze out, we flush it out with as much water as we can, and then when we stop, we have an unknown quantity of water in there. We don't know how much water is in there. So the best bet is to, look up the capacity of the cooling system. Let's say it's a gallon. So it's a 50-50 mix would require a half a gallon of antifreeze. So I do a flush and fill, flush a bunch out, and then I put in my half a gallon of antifreeze, and then I top off with the rest of my distilled or demineralized water. I generally don't use tap water, although if I use tap water at my house, I have, highly filtered water that I can use. I use it to wash the cars. I use it to fill the, coolant systems, and, but it's usually fine. Here's a refractometer. I'm going to show you how to use one of these guys. Here's a hydrometer. I don't have one. Don't use them. Not going to show you. And then we do pressure testing. And I'm going to post a video on how to pressure test the cooling systems. Okay, got it?